Well, hello again, everybody. Welcome back to part 4 of our little standard engine rebuild here. Last time, part 1, 2, and 3 was taking it apart and getting it unseized. Then part 3 was resurfacing this crankshaft. If you haven't seen that and would like to see that, go back and take a look at part 3. This is part 4. We're going to work on the block a little bit here. I went ahead and got the bearings out of it, and I had to actually chisel them out. They were Babbitt bearings, but they apparently had been poured in there. But anyway, I got those out and got it cleaned up. Took a hone, like this one here, a little ball hone, and ran in there and cleaned those surfaces up after I got the old bearings out. And I've got a nice clean surface in there to work with. So I've been working here this morning doing a little measuring here, and I come up with a piece of bronze stock here that I'm going to use for the bearings. And I'm going to bore it, get on the lathe here in a minute and bore those out and make it fit the crank. And then I've got to take just a little bit off of the OD to get it to fit inside of the block here. So I've been doing that, measuring that up and sitting here trying to plan how I'm going to do it and show you guys. So I want to take a little burring tool here and make sure I've got a chamfered edge here. I don't want that to catch the new bushing as I push it in. I'll probably press them in. I may Loctite them in place too. So next trick is to get that done. We'll get the crankshaft fitted in the block, and then we'll start working on the rod. I've got it laying out here. We're going to take a look at it, probably make new bushings for it too. And I've got it fairly straight now. I want to set it up on a real flat surface and check that and make sure I've got that good and straight. So we'll work on that next. I've got a piece of bronze here, probably to work on the wrist pin bushing. I don't have a chunk yet for the big end. I've got to go through my junk box and see if I can find a little chunk of brass there to make for the big end. But we'll get that done and move on. So let's get started. Thanks. Okay, got you set up over here at the lathe. I'm using the onboard microphone on the camera since the VFD will interfere. This is not running exactly true, so I'm going to run a center drill in here. That'll put me a hole right in the middle with no wobble. I'll just run that in there real quick. That looks pretty decent. Just going to drill this out here. Start with this size. Go completely through. Cut. Let me get another bit. Just about through. I had to change bits again. This material is sintered bronze and it's oil impregnated, and what it is just like a bronze dust that they press together. I mean, it's made under high pressure down through, and I'll show you when I shut it off here. I don't know if you can see it or not. There's actually oil coming out of this this piece. It's wet with oil here, and throwing off the chuck and everything else. And when it gets warm, as I'm drilling it, it makes that oil seep out of it, and it was just throwing oil everywhere. That's oil impregnated bronze is what we're working with here. Let me step up to the next bit here. Actually, the product is called Oil Light, and what I'm actually making is Oil Light bushings. So this is a 3/4. I'm going to go up to 3/4, then we'll try to get in there with a boring bar and take it up to the size of the crankshaft here. Let me back this out. Run this up close. Slow down the machine a little bit. And we'll go in with this 3/4. And we're almost there. There we are. Okay, let me switch over to the boring bar now. Okay, I'll give you an idea where we're at here. Just won't quite go. This is 784. And let's take a measure in there. Take a measurement. Set this little depth gauge in there. Now I ran a 3/4 bit through there, which is 750 thousandths, and I am at, let's see, 767. So you see, when you drill with a twist drill, you don't get a true hole. It drills a little bit big, especially at this end, and the most accurate way is to bore it. So I'm at 767 right now. We're going to bore it out to 784. Let me set up the boring bar here. Here's a boring bar holder. It slips on here. I've got one in there that's too short. Let me get him out of there. That one's just a little short. It won't reach clear back to the back. Let's find one here. Probably this one. Yeah, that'll go back there. And it'll just fit in the hole nice too, so that's good. Get this set up in there. Get the height set on it and so forth. Okay, the way I set these up is I first set it in there for the depth. It'll reach all the way back now. I've got this nifty tool that I use. It's got a leveling bubble on it here, and what you do is you just lay it up against your lay this V against your work, and then set your cutting tool down on this surface here, right here. Get it in the shot there, and make your adjustments. And when that bubble is level, your cutting tool is right in the center of the cut. So then you can tighten everything down. And I set this for just a very tiny bit of positive rake on this carbide tip boring bar here, and we'll try that and see if it's gonna cut. Get this stuff out of the way here. And we'll crank this back. Make sure it's going to plunge in there okay. And we'll make a cut here. as you can hear, that drill bit doesn't drill perfectly centered. But this boring bar will take care of that. I'll go ahead and set up the automatic feed here and be right back. Okay, just set up on automatic. It's taking it through. The power feed's taking it through nice and easy. I'm not in any hurry. You hear the tick, tick, ticking in here. There's gears on the other side over here. And I've got one that's got a tooth that's not quite perfect. I haven't found a chip in it, or I haven't found a tooth missing. But it still has that tick. But it doesn't hurt the machine at all. So somebody may have heard that. Wondered what that knocking noise is. Okay, I went ahead and finished up this bushing. Split it in two. So now I've got two of them that should fit just fine. They fit the crankshaft really good. And so these new ones don't have the flange on them. So I'm going to have to I'm going to set them flush with the edge of the housing here on both sides. And I'm going to make a couple of thrust washers to put on the end of the crank. And I've got to finish the outside of them now. So it's just a little bit too big to push into this housing. It would probably go, but I don't want to force it that hard. I want about a 1/1000th and a half, or maybe 2/1000ths press fit, I guess. Something like that's what I'm looking for. They don't have to be, stuck in there so tight that they can't be fairly easily removed if I want to remove them again. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to jig them up right here on this crankshaft. I've already had it in lathe, so it's already set up with provisions to put it back in the lathe between centers. And I've got a piece of pipe here that just fits nicely over this. This is a piece of 3/4 pipe, and that fits nicely. I want to machine the ends of this and make a spacer to go in here, and then I can put the nut on it and tighten it up with the nut on the end here and bind these on here, and then I can machine these surfaces in the lathe on the OD and get them where they'll correctly fit there. So that's the plan. See if we can pull this off. I've got the spacers, the thrust washers almost made over here. I'll show you here in a second. Well, I've got a piece of stock here that I've bored to fit the crankshaft, and these spacers are going to be 1/8 of an inch thick. That's what the old bearings were, so I'm banking that that's going to be the correct size. So let's fire up here. And I'm just ready to break through here, I think. A little lube on there. We're parting this off. Just about through on the first one. I've got this one to do and one more. This operation requires a lot of cutting oil, a lot of pressure involved here in a very small area. Sounds like we're just about through. It'll drop off on this little spindle I've got in the chuck here. There we go. And there's one of them. Looks pretty decent. I'll have to chamfer the inside of the hole here. Let's see if it fits the crankshaft. Oh yeah. I like that. We'll make another one for this other end out here. Go from there. So I've got this blued up, and I've got my caliper set for 1/8 of an inch. So I'm going to make a little score mark on there. Just like that. Now I can see where to set the cutter at. Bring it over here. Clean the chips off of it so I can see it. And I run it up just inside of that mark. Right there. And that's going to require a lot of lube. And we'll plunge in and make that cut. As soon as I get plunged in a little ways here where I've got room to do it, I'll take a 45 and chamfer the corners of it so that it's not sharp. And we'll plunge this in there and cut this one off, and I'll be right back with you. Almost through. On the last one I set a cutter up in here with a 45 on it, and I ended up just filing it anyway, so I'll just file that and break those sharp corners. A lot easier to do now than before it pops off of there. That just makes it easier on the hands when you're trying to handle it. Yeah, let me plunge back in and finish the cut. I run my little pin up here, so I'll catch it and I don't have to go finding it in the chip tray. Just holding a little lube on it here out of this acid brush. Just about there. When you hear it start to quiet down like that, you know we're just about to the end. It's going to pop off right about now. There it is. That one's a little warm. Pull it off there, the rag. Ooh, it's hot. Wipe the oil off of it. Now I'll chamfer the inside here with a hand tool. That's the other thrust washer. And this is the tool I use. Not the best, but it works on knocking that edge off. I probably ought to get a new bit for it. I think I've got some around here somewhere, but just enough to knock the sharp edge off of them and make it so they don't cut your fingers or leave a sharp chip stuck in your skin. There we go. Now it feels pretty good. There we go. So basically this is how it's going to be. Thrust washer, bushing. Then over here on this end will be the bushing over here. Now in the middle is going to be the spacer. Then I'll probably put another spacer out here between this washer and nut. And that will allow me to clamp that all up tight, and that'll clamp these into position, and I can machine them in the lathe. And the whole time under my feet has been this monstrosity. This is Greta. She makes a good shop dog around here. She's all the time under my feet wanting me to play ball, though. She loves to play ball and get doggy treats and stuff like that, don't you? Yeah, oh, I know. Yep, I know. Yep, say hi to everybody. All right, she's gone. Okay, I'm going to hand hold you here. This is the setup. This is the pieces of pipe I cut, the bushings, and the spacers, and the setup I've got here in the lathe. So that's what it took to get this set up, and I'm just working it down now and trying to get it close, and we'll pull it out of here and see if they fit in the housing. I'm looking for just a light press fit. So this is the setup that I used for that. So we'll pull it out here and see what kind of a fit we've got. Okay, got you back over here on the bench. Let's take this apart, see what we got, and you know, all the measuring in the world is fine. I get them as close as I can, and hopefully they'll want to go in. Let's see, this one goes over here. This one goes up. Oh yes. See, that goes in all but about 3/4 of an inch, and then it gets tight, which I like that. I like that. That's about the fit I want. I can press that in the rest of the way, and it should stay there then. And let's check this one. This one's a little tighter, which I thought it might be, but it starts nice. It starts real nice. I don't know if you can see it or not in there, but it's started. I want it to be a little tighter anyway. So I think those will press in there and be just fine, hopefully. Then we'll get the shaft in it and see how it runs, and go from there. Yep. We'll see if I've got the spacers made correctly now and see where we're at. Okay, before I push the bushings into the housing for the last time, I want to make a few modifications to the block. Let me show you what I've done here. I've got it set up in the mill over here. Let me move you around here. All right, we'll look down in here. This is looking from the bottom up into the top of it here. And there wasn't any way to drain the crankcase. I'll get this out of the mill and show you here in just a second. So I had to mill off a flat down there so that my drill bit would work. And it's way down in there. So my setup for that was a collet with an extension and an extended mill bit. So that was breaking a lot of rules, but it was just a real light cut down there. It didn't take much just to make that flat area to where the drill bit would track on it and not walk off of it. So anyway, I wanted to drill that hole in the bottom of the crankcase chamber. Let me get this out of the mill and I'll show you exactly what we're doing here. Okay, back over to the bench once again here. I have added a couple of mods to this block here. Put an oiler in here. I made took a brass fitting and made a deal where I can add oil. It'll go in between the two bushings and lube those bushings, even though they are oil light. I want to keep oil in there anyway. Judging from the amount of wear that was in this engine and these bearings when I took it apart, this is needed. And the other thing is, this is a waste oil system. In other words, when you'll see it when I get the cylinder back on it, there's an oiler up here on the cylinder, and all the oil ends up in here. Well, there is no way to add oil or to drain oil in this little crankcase here. So that's what I was doing over on the mill. You can see where I've drilled a hole up in here. And if you look under here, there's a cast hole right here. Well, I assumed, and there's the hole that I drilled, I'm going to put a street L in there and have that pointed out this way so I can come out here with a drain and be able to drain this crankcase. Typically with enclosed crankcases with oilers, there's got to be some way to drain off the excess oil. You know, it may throw out, it may blow out the bearings, who knows, but I want to be able to empty this junk that accumulates in here. So I went ahead and machined that hole in there, and I'm going to use this as the outlet, bring a little pipe out here, put a little valve on it, and be able to drain the crankcase. So that's it for that. I'm going to go ahead and get this put together and get the bushings in it and bring it back. I'm going to see if I can figure out a way to retain the bushings in there and bring it back, show you that. And that's going to be about a wrap up on this part of the engine. And we'll move on to other parts. There's lots of little things to do to it yet. So hope you're enjoying it. Leave a comment if you'd like, and we'll keep trudging on here. Okay, I'll show you what I did here. I've got set screws in here, and I just ground flats or drilled flats on the bushings for these set screws to set down against. And there's no pressure on them, just enough to keep them from rotating and moving around in there. So that's how I retained the bushings. Got it pretty well mocked up here. It looks pretty good. It's turns real nice and free. I like that. I've got a little end play. I was only able to put one of my shims in here, so I'm going to have to machine the other shim down and make it thinner. And my end play I've got to set up here. Let me put this on here. Let's see. I've had it on there once. Put it on there again here. There we go. And that'll allow me to, I don't know if you can see that or not, but that'll allow me to set the end play. And I need 70 thousandths. And this is like 1/8 of an inch, which is 1/25. So I've got to get a thinner shim, put it back together, and have the end play correct at that point. And that'll be it for the mains. And I can move on to other parts of the project. So that's going to wrap this one up, I think. I'm going to stop the video here, and we'll end this part, and I'll get prepared to start doing another part. I'm either going to do the governor section or get the cylinder on it. I don't know which yet. We've got to make a rod bearing yet. And here's the little rod bearing. I've got to make it yet and get it fit in there. So probably ought to put the cylinder on. Oops. Excuse me. Probably ought to put the cylinder on, get this fit up, and we'll go from there. So again, I sure appreciate you watching. If you like what I'm doing, subscribe to the channel and leave a message. Leave a comment down below, and we'll talk about this little engine some. So stay tuned for the next part. Thanks for watching. What? Get up here and see me. Come up here and see me. Or give me a hug. You give me a hug? All right, give me a big old hug. Oh, thanks. Thank you. I love you too. Yes, I love you too. But that sounded good on the microphone. All right, later.